Okay, so we talked about Enoch and Elijah having never died and having to come back to get killed by a demon later.
Okay.
But-
Yes.
But we got comments from people saying that you're dumb and that everything that you said was wrong.
But that's nothing new.
Right.
That pretty much happens all the time.
And then I Googled it.
Okay.
And there's some other guy who apparently never died.
Okay.
Which I think I tried to say at the beginning or when we started talking about this, the last one.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't really know what the guy's name was.
Okay.
But Melchizedek.
Yeah, Melchizedek.
Melchizedek.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So apparently, according to Google, which take that with a pillar of salt.
Right.
Melchizedek didn't die either.
Okay.
So who he and what he do.
All right. Man, we're so smart. All right, so Genesis 14, verse 18. Melchizedek.
See?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't even read it.
I heard you say it wrong so many times in my head now. All right. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest to God Most High. He blessed him and said, Abram is blessed by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has handed over your enemies to you. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. All right. So Abram has just returned from battle.
A tenth of everything?
Mm-hmm. A
tenth of his children?
No, not his children, but of all the things that he owned.
Mm.
Yeah. And so Abram has returned from battle, and Melchizedek greets him, bringing out bread and wine, which has its own kind of symbolic meaning that we could read into, but I won't. Brings out bread, wine, is that kind of looking ahead to communion. But he was a priest to God Most High. He blesses Abram, and then Abram gives him a tenth of everything that he has.
Like tithing.
Correct. Exactly like tithing. Yes. So, and this is pre-law. So this is tithe being established in the law of Moses.
How do you know?
How do I know it's pre-law?
No. How did he know to give a tenth?
Do it? Well, actually, tithing was a broader. So tithing actually occurred in the cultural context that they were in at the time.
Oh, okay.
So that tithing was already in existence beyond just Abraham's culture, or Abram's culture, or his people. And so anyway, but yeah, so he gives 10% of everything he has. So that's literally all that we have, except for one verse in the Psalms, which speaks about Melchizedek in terms of the Old Testament scriptures.
Okay.
And then if we jump ahead, though, to Hebrews, so now if we go to the New Testament and the book of Hebrews in chapter 7, it says this: For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of God Most High, met Abraham and blessed him as he returned from defeating the kings. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. So first two verses pretty much just summarize, again, what was there in Genesis 14.
Mm-hmm. Plagiarism.
Straight. First, his name means king of righteousness, then also king of Salem, meaning king of peace. So in other words, the name itself, Melchizedek, means king of righteousness. Okay. But then we also know that he was the king of Salem, which means peace. So he's also the king of peace.
Okay.
All right. And this is where it gets interesting in verse 3. Without father, mother, or genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. All right. And so this is where the kind of the intrigue of Melchizedek comes in. All right.
Okay.
So he's without father, without mother, or genealogy, and having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the question is, like, who is this guy? How does he have no father or mother? How does he have no beginning of days? How does he have no end of life?
Right. So this is why Google said this.
Right.
Because he says it has no end of life.
Correct. So way to go, Google. Well done. But when we look at it, so one or two things are happening here. Okay. So there's one thought is that because it doesn't list Melchizedek's genealogy in Genesis, that the author of Hebrews is kind of using that as like because there's no genealogy listed. It's like, okay, so he's not like Abram who has this genealogy listed of him. He's not like Noah that has this genealogy listed of him. Like he's greater than these are, which is establishing Melchizedek's priesthood as greater than the one that would come through Abram's descendants. Okay. So be greater than the priesthood of the Levites,
which was all the best people.
Well, I don't know what we mean by the best people.
Abraham's descendants.
Yeah. The Israelites.
Yeah.
Okay. And so in other words, is the author of Hebrews here just kind of playing on the fact that there's no mention of the genealogy with Melchizedek in Genesis. Therefore, we can just assume he has this, like, he is supposed to be like this sense of like superior than, greater than those that do have the genealogies listed.
Mm-hmm.
But we could have said the same thing about Elijah too. There's no genealogy of Elijah. Just boom, Elijah just appears on the scene. And the next thing you know, he's asking for there to be no rain. And there was no rain. All right. So, like, it's just kind of interesting, like, how writers introduce people. So that's one thought, is that, all right, he actually did have a father and a mom,
did die.
But because it's not listed or not said in Genesis, we're just kind of playing on words off of that, or playing on kind of making an argument from silence a little bit. Okay. But the other side of it would be that because he's the King of righteousness, that he is the King of peace, that he really is without father or mother or genealogy. He really is one who has no beginning of days nor end of life. And that when it talks about him resembling the Son of God, it's more than just that he's resembling the Son of God. It's that he actually is the Son of God. And so...
What?
So we refer to this as a pre-Christophany.
So Jesus
is Melchizedek.
So Jesus came in to Abraham.
Yep, came to Abraham.
Took a tenth of his stuff. And then left. And then didn't come back for
a long time.
65 million.
Depending on how we want to date things around here.
Right.
Yeah. So
no.
That's all right. And so, but because we see other places in Scripture where it seems to be that there's a pre-Christophany. And
what does that mean?
So
that Christ came already?
Yeah. So in other words, it's the Son of God coming and appearing on earth prior to the incarnation, prior to Christ coming through the virgin birth.
Okay.
So so they're referred to as pre-Christophanies.
So he was like the guy that shows up in the Western and then helps everyone do something cool.
Right, and then he's out.
Just rides off.
Right, just disappears. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, because it could very much be that sense that actually who Abraham came and gave a tenth to is actually the Lord.
Okay.
Yeah, because in Hebrews, the reason the author of Hebrews brings up Melchizedek is because the author of Hebrews is making the argument that Jesus' priesthood is from the priesthood of Melchizedek, not the priesthood of the Levites. So he's connecting Jesus back to Melchizedek. So in other words, all I'm saying here is that Melchizedek really was like a real dude.
Okay.
Who actually did have a father and a mother, did actually die at some point.
Or he was Jesus,
or
who did die at some point.
He was Jesus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I tend to side with the pre-Christophany camp on this one.
No, you don't.
Okay. But I do.